today. I'll be handing over in a few minutes to Shamla Evans-Gadgil, who's a project manager on the transport team at Coventry City Council, that will be updating everyone on the electric bus city. Following Shamla's presentation, Amy Shakespeare, who's the Electric Fleet First project manager at Coventry City Council, will be updating everyone on the current transport projects and where we're at with all the sustainable transport projects that are happening in the city at the moment. Amy will then hand over to David Pipe, who's a senior officer in transport strategy at Coventry City Council, on what's new. So some of the new transport projects you might not be aware about, and also what's coming up, so hot off the press that hasn't necessarily happened yet. Then we'll have a Q&A session. If we're all stuck to time by 1:55, your chance to ask the speakers your questions. And then we'll end up today at the end on why it's time for businesses to go green more than ever now. And I'll just be giving you an overview of what we're doing at the council and within our Green Business Programme, helping businesses and other grant-funded projects that we have coming up. So I will now hand over to Shamla Evans-Gadgil, who's going to start today's transport strategy update. Shamla.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Shamla, as Denise has already introduced me. I'm the project manager working in the transport and innovation section at the Coventry City Council. I am going to discuss Coventry Electric Bus City. I'm sure everybody is aware of the funding and the competition that Coventry City Council won. We had a expression of interest last year that was requested by Department for Transport. They launched an all-electric bus town project as part of Better Deals for Buses back in February 2020. This particular project was a 50 million project that was being made available to convert all the existing buses in the city to electric. The City Council, along with Warwick County Council, put together the expression of interest with collaboration with Transport for West Midlands as well. And we submitted that expression of interest to DFT. I think they received a 19 expression of interest, and Coventry and Oxford City were the two that were going forward to do a full business case. Now, following that, there were some, I think, issues. They were going to provide funding for both the cities, but Oxford have dropped out, and Coventry is a city that is going forward as all electric bus city. Now, we have at the moment set up a number of working groups with Transport for West Midlands. The Combined Authority is the accountable body, West Midlands Combined Authority, who will be delivering the project in its totality. And we have got, at the moment, as part of the expression of interest, we had 3 incumbent bus operators who are fully supportive of this project, and that's National Express, Stagecoach and Arriva. There will be sort of, from a governance perspective, it is Transport for West Midlands that is going to be delivering this project. Now, the Combined Authority has published a notice. Sorry, I thought somebody was talking to me. So we have a enhanced bus partnership proposal that the West Midlands Combined Authority has published a notice for. And what this will do is it will enable the enhanced partnership scheme to be put in place, whereby any bus operator once this is in place, will have to operate electric buses or zero emission buses within the cities that are part of this enhanced bus partnership scheme. Now, the timetable to implement the Coventry electric bus city is by end of 2025, and it will be a phased delivery. A lot of complex works that are going to be undertaken, particularly to do with power supply, depot charging, opportunity charging, and like I mentioned earlier, we have set up now working groups with Transport for West Midlands and Warwick County Council, and it is almost like now watch the space. I'm sure everyone is aware that we already have 10 electric buses operating in Coventry, which was launched in August 2020. We also have, sort of from a sustainable perspective, the current bus depot has solar panels installed on the bus depot. So this is more looking at a holistic approach of providing power to the electric buses. I think the capacity for the solar panels to generate electricity is something like 2.2 megawatt hour peak over the year, but we have only completed the installation in December. So we will be collecting the data now, looking to install a battery that is going to store, which will allow us to demonstrate that these 10 buses can be operated on the power generated through the solar panels. So that was part of that ultra low emission bus project that the City Council won some funding in 2018. So that is really all about Coventry Electric Bus City. I haven't really got a lot of answers as to how we are going to deliver this until certain things are put in place, like we've got our reporting system from the City Council itself and certain competitions and procurement processes that needs to take place. So maybe in a couple of months' time, I'll be able to give you an update on where we are with the delivery of this project. But now I am going to hand it over to Amy to give you an update on the current projects that we have introduced in our previous webinars. Take it away, Amy.
Thanks, Shamala. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I hope you're all very well. My name's Amy Shakespeare. I am the Electric Fleet First Project Manager here at the Council. Just going to take you through some of the updates that are happening around the city. So I'll start off with just the regulations on taxis. So as you're probably all aware, with the clampdown on carbon footprints and emissions as well around the UK and what the government are enforcing, here at Coventry we're looking at introducing phased emission-based requirements for taxi drivers over the next 3 years. So starting on the 1st of January next year, 2022, vehicles that sit in the Euro 4 category emissions will no longer be able to get a licence. So I believe that's vehicles registered in 2006, and then so on for the following year. It will be Euros 5, and then for the following year, and so on and so forth. If you're not sure on what your emissions category is for your vehicle, you can Google it, or you can speak to your vehicle dealership, and they can give it you that over the phone, just if you're unsure of where you sit on that category as well. Something we're doing in partnership with these phased introductions is we are doing an electric fleet project scheme, which is what I work on. So if I go onto the next slide, the electric vehicle fleet project is a 2-month trial for businesses across Coventry to experience electric cars and electric vans. The only cost would be insurance for the period of the trial, And at the end of that trial, you'll have a free usage report, which will show you all the important things such as fuel savings, emission savings, as well as the financial aspect. So what kind of money you can save as opposed to filling your normal ICE vehicle with petrol or diesel. For the taxi drivers, it's a 1-month trial, and that's purely because of the uptake we've had, which is a great problem to have. So on the scheme, we have 3 LEVC black cabs, we have 3 Nissan Dynamos, which are all full zero emissions, and we have 3 Nissan Leafs, which are for the private hire trade as well. So if you want to find out more, you can click on that link when Denise sends the PowerPoint out at a later stage. You can register your interest and that'll come directly to me, and we can have a telephone consultation about how we think this project could benefit your business. As well, with businesses that travel to Birmingham, they're having their clean air zone introduced next month. So it might be something that businesses that do a lot of work out of Coventry but are based in Coventry could be looking at as well. Be a good opportunity. And there's just a picture of one of our existing SMEs that are trialling a vehicle right now, a driving school in Coventry, showing the younger generation what electric can offer them as opposed to petrol or diesel cars, helping them educate the younger drivers as well, giving them the experience that I think I certainly didn't get when I was younger as well. And I think it's good to offer that to the younger generation as well as the older generation. So just moving on to how we can support people on these trials as well. Coventry's in the top 20% of the UK for public charging infrastructure. So I just wanted to put on the screen there just the breakdown of what we have available around the city. So we've got 39 rapid chargers, we've got 24 semi-rapid chargers, 99 semi-fast chargers, and 314 slow chargers. So already the infrastructure in the city, in comparison to some of our surrounding areas such as Birmingham, are second to none. So this trial as well will give you a good indication on what kind of infrastructure your business would need, or home charging as well. So not only can you experience the vehicles, you can experience exactly what kind of infrastructure support you're going to need. Just moving on. So this is just an update on the very light rail and the vehicle update. So the vehicle assembly itself is complete, and it's undergoing at the moment the electrical and the factory acceptance testing. And then once that's done, the vehicle will be transferred over to Dudley at their innovation centre for the testing of the vehicle on a standard track. And then the next slide, just a little image there of the track design and the concept of what we're going for, and that's aimed to be complete at the end of this month. And then the components will then be manufactured in the summer, and then the funding required to construct the test track facilities at Dudley of the new track form. So that's just a little update on the design. And then as an overall time frame between obviously now and next year is the research and the development, so what we've just gone through with the design and the test track and all the testing. 2022 to 24 is the ongoing performance testing and the planning, and then 2024 to 25 is the first route where we'll be sending the first vehicle out. Next is just more on charging. So Coventry have partnered with a company called EO Charging, and they are offering a plug-in Coventry scheme where they're offering incentives to businesses around Coventry, charging infrastructure support, as well as grant funding. I believe it's £50 off for the first 60 businesses that go with EO off their infrastructure. And also on top of that, businesses that take part in our electric fleet trial scheme for the 2 months, if they then go forward to look at charging infrastructure, we will also add grant funding on top of that of £100. So add that onto your government funding of £350 for the OZEV grant. That's around £500 saving on infrastructure that you could get, and that's per charger. So if you have more than one, obviously the price will go up for what discount you get. So that £500 kind of the baseline for what you can get if you work with us and EO Charging. They're an outstanding manufacturer across the UK, and they've said by 2030 approximately 50% of the UK will have electric vehicles on the road. So they're really striving to get the infrastructure across the UK, and not just in Coventry, to a point where we can support yourselves and people like myself to make the change from petrol or diesel to electric. So any more information on that, you can also click on the link on the previous slide for the electric trial scheme. We've got an additional link to show what kind of charging support we have, and it will also offer the breakdown of the discounts what I just spoke about as well. So this next slide is just some information on the public realm. Just a few pictures there of the Bullyard, again of the shopping precinct, Broadgate with the social eating space, which at the moment has probably not been the best with the weather, but with summer coming, I'm sure that'll be put to good use. Adding some colour to the city as well with Paul Meadow, and then just some of the lighting as well that we've got. And these will all be in a position and will be all ready for City of Culture in the summer for 2021. Just moving on again, we're just looking at the railway station and just the updates that have been going on there, which I'm sure we've probably all seen as we've been out and about at the centre. So the investment aims to deliver transformational extension of the railway station, including the new station concourse area at the footbridge, creating 633 space car park, transport interchange alongside the public realm, and of course the highway improvements itself. The new facility will increase passenger capacity at the station and improve accessibility, creating new entrances from the station square and Warwick Road. And the new infrastructure provides step-free access for the bus rail interchange and contains lifts from the new car park directly to the concourse and the footbridge levels. And that project's due to be completed the summer this year. So just adding a bit more on that interchange. So the works are due to start next month, and the new facility would provide 4 bus stops alongside the rail replacement stops and a new tunnel under the Warwick Road, which will provide a direct step and traffic free access between the railway station and the interchange itself. So that's kind of just a very quick, brief overview of the current projects in Coventry. At the end, obviously, we can take your questions, and anything that we can't answer or I can't answer, I'll certainly take away, and I can provide you that information at a later stage. But for now, that's all on the current update. So I'll hand over to David, who will give an update or a presentation on what's new for the city. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and thanks very much, Amy. So hopefully this should follow on quite neatly from Amy's update. So it's a bit of a further roundup of some projects that I think mostly we perhaps haven't presented to you about before, but that are brand new, and in a lot of cases are kind of completely new transport services that have launched in the city over the last couple of months. So hopefully will be of interest. Hold on a second, there we go. So first of all, just to flag up a company called Connected Curb, who are one of the electronic vehicle charge point providers in the city. So they currently have 6 public charge points, and I don't know how well you can see on the slide here, the locations of those are all kind of around the Holyhead Road area. They're currently offering a 3 EV trial for up to 10 residents a month each. You just have to go online to their website, and there is a short kind of form you have to fill in explaining why you think you'd be a good person to take part in the trial. I think the only kind of eligibility requirement, apart from the obvious stuff about, you know, driving license, etc., is that you have to either live or work in the vicinity of their charge points. So I guess this may be of particular interest to any businesses that are on the call that are in the kind of Holyhead Road area. And if you would like to kind of distribute some information perhaps to your employees about this, let us know, and we can pass some of the material on so that you can circulate it. And then, as I said, we've recently launched a number of brand new services over the last couple of months. So one of these is the West Midlands Cycle Hire Scheme. So this is being launched by Transport for West Midlands. It operates across the whole, will operate across the whole of the West Midlands, and we'll have, I think, about 1,500 bikes in total. It launched in Coventry Oh, sorry. Shamla, connected cabs have 30 chargers, do they? Sorry, but it's those 6 that are in Coventry. Is that right?
No, sorry, they've got 30 at 6 locations, so 6 streets.
Oh, I see.
And on
6
each
locations.
street, they've got 6 chargers.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, and then going back to the cycle hire. So this has launched in Coventry in the last month or two. It's been very popular so far. The kind of numbers of people who've been using it have looked really good, bearing in mind that, you know, travel demand is still a little bit down on what it normally would be. At the moment, the bikes are mostly located in and around the city centre. But if you go to this web link, wmcyclehire.co.uk, you can see the locations there. Price for a hire is £1 to unlock a vehicle, and then I think 5p a minute afterwards. So as a guide, a 20-minute hire is £2, I think. And then similarly, we've also launched an e-scooter rental scheme. So this one is confined to the University of Warwick campus. And I guess this is slightly different to the cycle hire in that while that is very much intended to be, as soon as is practically possible, a citywide scheme, this is a pilot in a specific geographical area of the University of Warwick campus. The reason for that is that it's one of a number of national pilot schemes. So right now, e-scooters are only legal on private property other than for these small number of national trials. And the government is considering changing that legislation and legalising the use of e-scooters more generally, depending on the outcome of the trials. So the e-scooters are provided by a company called Voi. And again, there's a link there to an app in the App Store that you can use to download it and to put your payment details and so on in. The price for hiring an e-scooter is, again, £1 to unlock, and then it's 20p a minute after that. So again, potentially something that we may wish to roll out more widely, depending on the trial and depending on what government does around legislation. And then something else that's recently gone live is a scheme called mobility credits. So this is a vehicle scrappage scheme. So we're offering it to residents in 8 wards at the moment. And the way it works is if you've got an older, heavily polluting car that you no longer want. So when I say older, heavily polluting, I mean one that if you were to drive it into one of the clean air zones, like the one that's been introduced in Birmingham, that you would have to pay the clean air zone charge. If you've got one of those cars and you'd like to get rid of it, you can scrap it via this scheme. You get £3,000 worth of mobility credits. So essentially those come on a kind of prepaid, it's not Visa, but like a Visa card, that you can then spend on other transport services. Yes, the mobility credit scheme is just in Coventry. I think Birmingham are introducing a vehicle scrappage scheme of their own, but it's a little bit different to ours. I guess the unique feature of ours is that we're not giving cash, we're giving credits. So that means people can't spend the money buying another car. You can spend it on things like bus tickets, cycle hire, e-scooter hire, taxis, short-term car hire, those sorts of things. So it's really intended to enable people to give up a car entirely. And again, we've had about 30 or 40, I think, people go live on that so far, and we've got funding for a fair few more. So there's a link there to apply if that's of interest to anyone. And then lastly, in terms of new stuff that's launched recently, this is a service called Demand Responsive Transport, or DRT. DRT is essentially a bus service without a fixed route. So instead, what it does is it operates within a defined geographical area, and then anywhere within that area it will pick up and drop off people wherever they want. So essentially it's very similar to a service like Uber, but the difference is that instead of sending an individual separate car for every person who orders a ride, it's a small number of minibuses, and it has a clever kind of algorithm in the background that works out that if there are lots of people who all want to be picked up from quite close together, it will do all of them in one route, if you see what I mean. So it's essentially aggregating those requests and working out the most efficient way to use the vehicle to pick everyone up and drop everyone off where they want to be. So we're launching 2 of these services. One is specifically focused on the University of Warwick, and that service is already live. It's launched in the last few weeks. And then a second service will go live a little later this year, servicing the east side of the city. So that will cover, I guess on the western edge, it will encompass the city centre, and then moving out to the east, it will cover places like Jaguar Land Rover at Whitley, Binley Business Park, University Hospital, anything kind of within that zone will be covered. Exact launch date of that is to be confirmed, but I think it will be autumn, probably most likely. Just picking up some of these questions, how you access DRT is via an app. Again, apologies, I've just realised I haven't put the link to the app on here, but if you go to the App Store and put in WM Bus On Demand, there's a mobile phone application you can download, and then the front end of it, the kind of your experience of booking is very similar to if you've used a service like Uber. It's similar to that, but price wise, because you're sharing the vehicle with others, it's substantially cheaper. The prices depend on the journey length, but as a guide, if you're traveling to the University of Warwick campus from somewhere in Coventry, it's about £3, from Kenilworth £4, and then you can add extra riders for another £1. So if there's a group of you traveling together, it becomes more cost efficient. And then to pick up the other question about the DRT vehicles being electric, they're not initially, but they are part of the all electric bus project, so they will become electric in line with all of the other buses, so by 2025. Yeah, so those are the services that are new. And then in terms of things that are coming soon, these are things that are maybe a little bit further away and that we may wish to come back and talk to you about in a bit more detail at future webinars. But I guess we wanted to give you some kind of early heads up of some of the things that we're exploring and working on. So apologies if the details of some of these are a little vague. They're at the early stages, but we are looking at something called dynamic vehicle charging. So this is charging of an electric vehicle while it's still moving. And we want to introduce a pilot project in Coventry. So take one specific section of road and install, I don't know if you can see these very clearly in the picture, but install these induction loops that you can see here underneath the road, which you then have a receiver in the vehicle, and that enables it to charge as it drives over that stretch of road. So this is mostly aimed at commercial vehicles. So we're thinking freight, buses, vehicles like that, where they're larger vehicles that do a lot of miles, and it's perhaps not practical for them to be sitting idle charging all of the time. If we can extend the range that they can travel between charges by allowing them to charge while they're out and about, that's potentially very, very valuable for some organisations. So what we're doing at the moment is a kind of desktop study looking at feasibility, with the intention of then introducing a pilot project somewhere in the city shortly. It would be the first of its kind in the UK, although there are similar test facilities in some other countries. So this photo here is taken from Gotland Island in Sweden, for example. And then you may also have seen some stuff in the local press recently about this. So this is what we're calling an urban airport. So this is a pop-up facility for drone travel, drone transport. So the intention here is to launch a kind of demonstrator project. It's likely to be on site in the kind of last quarter of this year, so October to December. I'd say it will be a pop-up facility, so essentially it is an airport that can be constructed, a small airport that can be constructed in a matter of weeks. That could then operate as an airport for either passenger drones or delivery drones or a bit of both. So this at this stage is purely a kind of test. It's a demonstrator project. It's something to prove that this is possible, technically possible. But there's potentially lots of quite interesting and exciting applications for this at some point in the future. So will there at some point be an appetite for passenger travel via drone, or for companies such as Amazon to use delivery drones? Alternatively, hopefully not for Coventry, but there's a potential application of this around kind of disaster relief and places where perhaps local infrastructure has been destroyed and you need to be able to get aid and so on in and out, and you can construct this pop-up facility and then fly things into the area. So this is potentially a really interesting piece of technology, but still very much at the early stages. And then a couple of other things, just to let you know that we're kind of looking at these. So we're exploring options around creating what we're kind of calling kind of EV charging hubs. So these would be locations around the city where there would be lots of electric vehicle charging facilities, but then also the option to kind of transition from that to other modes of travel. So they might become little kind of mobility hubs, if you like, where you might drive in, leave your vehicle charging, and then get on one of the cycle hires or an e-bike or an e-scooter or something else. And then on a larger scale, similarly, what we're calling supercharging hubs. So these would be sort of service station type facilities on the sort of strategic route network, so by motorways or A roads, with lots and lots of kind of rapid charging facilities for electric vehicles, and then service station type facilities, including food and drink and spaces where you could work and lounges where you could work and get Wi-Fi and so on. So this image here is a kind of concept design of what something like that might look like. You might also recall that back in, I think it was about December time, we emailed you all asking whether there was interest in being involved in something called a Transport Innovation Showcase. We're kind of nearly at a point where we've got a little bit more information to share on that. And I think we're expecting to announce some further details in the next week or two. So if it's okay, this is, I guess, just a heads up that that's coming. And I think what we'll probably do is circulate some more information to you after the webinar as soon as it's available. And then lastly, again, you may have seen some stuff in the local press recently around proposals for a gigafactory. So this would be a manufacturing centre for batteries for electric vehicles. The council has just launched a consultation on this. The proposal is that it would be on the kind of Coventry Airport site at the south of Coventry. And as I say, we've just launched a consultation looking at the concept and seeking residents' views on it. But potentially it would be a bit of a coup for the city if we could get a facility like that in Coventry. So I think that's it from me. I'm conscious that we've covered an awful lot of ground quite quickly, and I'm sure that people will have some questions. So if it's okay, I'll hand back over to Denise for those.
All right, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Shamla, and thank you, Amy. Some really interesting projects that are happening in and around Coventry, and especially the other projects and really futuristic things to think about. So now it's your chance to ask the panel some questions. I've seen quite a lot of activity in the chat around the on-street charging and the difference between on-street charging and connected curb. So maybe Shamla, you might want to just update all the attendees on the difference between those two projects, and also an update on the Chargy scheme, because there's been a question from Keith around the parking restrictions as well on the Coventry Road.
Yeah, so I mean, what we've got is we've got zones, areas across the city, and each area has got a number of slow chargers, and then there are 2 fast chargers. So either they are 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatts. Now, when you have a 22 kilowatt, it is more on opportunity charging. It is more like the visitors that are coming to visit the residents in the area. So for them, they just go and top up their cars. So you've got 4 hours, no return within 4 hours restriction on just those 2 fast charges. So on Coventry, there will be only, I'm not really sure that there are restrictions on Coventry Road, where the slip road is, where the shops are. You've got chargers which are slow chargers, and there are no restrictions on those chargers at the moment. Off Coventry Road, Cecily Road, you've got 3 rapid chargers with restrictions of 1 hour, no return within 2 hours. But that is a 50 kilowatt charger, which is a rapid charger behind Tesco's. And that is all you need, really. You need about 45 to 55 minutes to get a top-up charge. And that is supposed to be for quick charging. It's an opportunity charging. You don't park up there. It's not a parking space. It's a charging space. So I'm going to just read the questions. Only 2 vehicles can utilize, not other vehicles. In fact, only 1 vehicle in production now can use 22. AC can only charge at 7. Yes, up to 22 kilowatt. So I am basically, what I'm saying is that the expectations at these fast charging locations is not for somebody to park up and like at a 0% or 10%. It is more to give you a top up as a visitor in that area rather than you living in that area, because if you're living in that area, there are slow charges for residents. If you are somebody who's just visiting not the residents, but visiting the city, then you go and charge at the rapid charge locations. There are 39 in the city where it will give you rapid charge. There is AC and DC facility on those charges. On a Nissan Leaf, for example, is of no use, but it will give you, the car decides what charging rate it will take. So whatever charge rate your car will take, the charger will provide that rate of charge. So for a Nissan Leaf will take a 7 kilowatt charge. So even though it is a 22 kilowatt charger, it will provide you with the charge. And I do understand where you're coming from. You are not, when will the 400 kilowatt charger come to Coventry? Okay, so that is what David just mentioned about the supercharging hubs. We are slowly looking at expanding, how the charging capabilities within the city. As far as charging hubs are concerned, that is part of the electric vehicle infrastructure strategy, and it is coming. At the moment, we are looking to provide charging facility for residents, and the city council is at the moment trying to bid for central government funding and make use of all the different opportunities that have been made available for the city. We are also looking at partnering with charge point operators to look at super fast charging hubs, but that is a strategy type of projects rather than, it's not going to just happen. There will need to be a lot of other things like planning, land availability, all those, and of course funding availability. There are other factors involved when we are looking at something like that. We need more 7 kilowatt AC street charges for residents. 3 kilowatt is not good enough for the city for future. Well, you see, it is more, if you think about off street. So if you've got a driveway or a garage and you have a charger on your, so you're plugging it from your house, then you can't get a 7 kilowatt charge from your house. At the best, you will get a 3 kilowatt. Yes, 17. Yes, yeah, but we don't. That is when you have a 0%. We tend to charge. We do top-up charging. We don't do a full charge. So I have an EV and I get to 60% and I plug my car in. I don't know that anybody who owns an electric vehicle lets it go down to 10% before they plug in. So I get what you're saying, 52 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt will take 17 hours. I have got a 40 kilowatt battery and at my house, so it is only taking 1.5 kilowatt charge, and it takes about 12 hours to charge. So we are topping up rather than charging from zero. So all these charges are there to allow residents to top up charge. When you want the full charge very quickly, you go and you utilize the rapid chargers, which there are a number of in the city, along with fast chargers. So looking at provision of AC and DC, I think Coventry is making strides in trying to provide a balanced charging infrastructure.
Okay. Craig and Keith, they both seem to be asking those questions. Does that answer all your questions on EV charging? If you have anything, you can unmute yourself and ask direct, or if you need anything clarifying.
I'm happy to take, have another offline discussion with Craig.
Okay, fine. Okay. Some of the other questions then, there was a question on VLR. I know we don't have the project manager here today for the Very Light Rail, but there was a question around the driverless vehicle aspect of it. And I know, Shamla, you did pick that up in the chat. Was there anything else you wanted to say about, why was it decided to be driverless?
No. What I'm basically saying is that is a commercial decision. That's something that I'm fairly certain, I'm not 100%, and we will have to go back to the project manager to ask those questions. But that will be looked at later on. At the moment, this is an R&D, as Amy mentioned in her slide, that it's an R&D process currently going on. What I do know is that the capability is there for driverless facility on the VLR, but whether it's going to be with the driver or driverless, I'm not really sure that those decisions have been made as yet.
I think just the only thing to possibly to add to that is that the other thing to bear in mind is that what it is on day one and what it is in the longer term may not be the same.
That's
so
right.
I think the working assumption may well be that it will have a driver initially, but the longer term aspiration is probably likely to be to automate it. But if obviously if we can't do that in time for launch, then that may be something that comes later.
Thank you. Robin's asked, where exactly is Very Light Rail? Robin, do you mean where it is at the minute being developed, or do you mean where the routes will be in Coventry? No. Okay. Perhaps just explain the route, where the routes will be.
Sorry, that is not yet been finalized. I think that once there is a indication, then I think there will be a consultation process that will take place. So I don't think that the route has been finalized.
Okay. There was one question from Parminder. I don't think he's on the call anymore, but there's two parts to his question. One was around all these exciting projects, how are they going to be promoted? I guess that's where our central marketing and comms team will come in the council. Has there been any a comms plan around all these exciting projects? I know we've seen lots of press releases. That was one of the questions in the chat. Don't know if anyone wants to answer that one.
Yeah, I can answer from my side in terms of the electric vehicles. So with the electric fleet try before you buy scheme, obviously we launched in December, which was challenging given COVID and going back into lockdown as such. So what we tried to do strategically was to almost phase in the communications to the public as and when businesses were back and up operational. So as businesses have slowly been able to release the shackles, if you like, of restrictions and heading back to what we call normal, that's where we've kind of started to amp up the media side and the communication side. I know over the next month towards Clean Air Day, which is the 17th of June, we're looking at working with the Transport Museum for the electric fleet project itself. Having some of the existing SMEs, such as the driving school that I showed in the presentation, they're going to be there as well. And then towards later on in August, I believe as well, there'll be another workshop at the Transport Museum that we're currently working on. That will be open to the public. And of course, then fingers crossed, we'll still have no social distancing or any impacts of that sort. So it'll be a much more inclusive and robust exhibition where we'll have all sorts of different electric vehicles, as well as the technical support from ourselves and the manufacturers. So there's things in the pipeline for the project that I'm on. It's just as and when we introduce it to try and get the most out of the current climate, as you say, with businesses coming back into work now. So that's probably why at the moment it's not been so out there, if you like, with the communications, but it will pick up in terms of the electric vehicles and how we can support businesses.
Thanks, Amy. And I guess as well, it's a strong push here to think about visiting the Transport Innovation Showcase when it opens at the Transport Museum. I think it's from July onwards, a 6-month project. Because all these projects will be on show at this showcase, this exhibition for 6 months, and it's going to be digital shows as well as the actual projects themselves, the infrastructure itself. So it gives everyone an opportunity to, see what's happening and what's coming up as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with the electric fleet project, we value the businesses' feedback and also their experience, because the council ourselves, we're learning about how we can electrify our fleet as well with our refuge trucks and so forth. And it's almost like a partnership project, really. We rely on the feedback from the participants as much as they rely on us to give them a good service with a good vehicle and a good opportunity to experience electric. So going forward as well, the more uptake we get and the more feedback we get, the more we can alter or change things around to support the public even more and support our businesses even more.
I think as well, just to add about some of the schemes that we're doing with Transport for West Midlands, like the mobility credits and the DRT service, I think you should probably expect to see a kind of ramping up of some of the communications around those over the next couple of months as well. Obviously, because of COVID, they've had a little bit of a soft launch, and we've been able to do a bit of kind of social media promotion, but that's about it. But I think we do have some plans to do some kind of, more like physical advertising of them and so on over the next couple of months. But equally, any help kind of disseminating this stuff to employees within your own organisations would be very, very much appreciated.
Thank you. And there was a question in the chat about supply chain networks as well. So I don't know if anyone on the panel can just give an overview about how, in some of these projects, are you using local supply chains? Is there any examples of that?
Was that for VLR? I'm not sure which project
VLR,
you referred to. If it was for VLR, then I don't know all of the detail, but I do know that it is very much an aspiration of the project to have to make the West Midlands a kind of hub for VLR and to have a local supply chain for it. The thinking here is that this will have potentially enormous benefits for Coventry, but potentially not just for Coventry. It's a first of its kind in the world system, and the problem that we're trying to solve here is that traditional tram networks are too expensive for small cities like Coventry. There are a lot of other cities that are in the same boat and who may be interested in this technology if we can show that it can work here. So potentially there is an opportunity to, for local companies who are involved in supplying it to to then supply it to other cities as well. And I know that's very much one of the aims of the project.
Thank you.
And also, just one more thing to add about the Dynacov project. I mean, that is also another project that will be looking at using local sort of supply chain when we get to the demonstration or demonstrator phase. So the aspirations are always looking to use local supply chain, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions from anyone? I think I've answered all the ones in the chat now. Does anyone, I mean, you're very welcome to ask a question direct if you want to unmute yourself.
Denise, can I just come in? I've just read one of the chat from Craig about 50%, 8 hours, meaning every night the same vehicle will use the same charger. Just wanted to clarify something. I think it depends very much on the mileage you end up doing every day. As a general rule, statistically, people tend to do about 50 miles a week. So if you've got, for example, a 40 kilowatt battery vehicle, you are looking at charging that vehicle maybe once a fortnight, not every night. So you really do need to be traveling some 52 kilowatt. That is going to allow you to do some. Wow, that is a lot of telephone. 52 kilowatt battery will allow you to do something over 150 miles. So you need to be, driving that many every day to charge or needing a charge on a daily basis. Just thought I'll mention that.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in the chat now on the supply chain. As a supply chain, who would be the best person to contact to inquire if we can assist with anything going forward?
I think it will be dependent on individual projects. And I think with this webinar, we will be keeping you updated when it gets to a point. And of course, that is also dependent on procurement processes. And I think City Council would have they wouldn't appoint supply chains, but they would be looking to have the partners appoint the supply chain. So who is the best person will probably be more who should be contacted will be more clarified nearer the time when the projects are due to be going out for delivery rather than at the moment.
Perhaps if Jeanette, if you contact me through the Green Business Network, and then we can certainly steer you to the Green Business Directory where you can be listed on there, and obviously I can have your details to forward to the transport team as well. That's probably the best. If I can ask one of my colleagues on the Green Business Programme just to put the Green Business email address in the chat, so you've got a contact there to email. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Could I ask one directly?
Yes,
rather than put it in the chat?
Yes.
I may have missed this because unfortunately I couldn't get to log in earlier, so I won't dwell on that. But my view of destination charges is that I don't actually agree with Craig on this. I think that lots more that were lower charging. If you had a charging point at every single parking space, that would sort the job out, and it would be much cheaper to put in than trying to put in high capacity chargers. Obviously, there's like your lovely charging hub for rapid chargers, completely different consideration. So have I missed whether or not you're doing lots and lots of destination chargers? I just read this morning on Twitter, I think it was, where somebody had put in a whole car park full, but they would be lower power. They're probably not as high as 7 kilowatts. I don't think you need 7 kilowatts.
Yeah, totally agree. I think it is dependent on the journey patterns. It depends on what is that car park usage. If it's a short-term car park, long-term car park, Is it retail? Is it for commuters? You know, all these considerations will need to be looked at before you decide what capacity charges you need to provide.
Sure.
At the moment, there are a lot of slow charges for residents being provided by the city council as a destination charging. There are opportunity charging as well. So it really is dependent on where the charge points are being provided and what is the use case for that charge point, rather than providing a car full of charging.
Sure. Okay. But I mean, for example, in railway stations is a classic. You get if you get plugged into a charging point at a railway station car park, you're clearly not going to come back and move it if you've gone to London or somewhere. So those sort of situations where cars are going to be there for a while and are not going to come off a charging point. And again, if you're going to be away all day, you don't need to have a huge capacity. I mean, to be perfectly honest, whatever you've got, you'd have enough to get you back home again, even if it was 1.5 or 2 kilowatts. Didn't even
absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah, that's what I meant when I said.
That's good. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Depends on the function of the car park. Yeah. Okay. Agreed entirely. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And sorry you had difficulties logging in, but the session has been recorded, so you'll be able to watch the earlier presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Denise. I'll try and catch that later.
All right. Thank you. There was another question in the chat from Jason. It's in terms of charges, will the council be in charge of billing, or will it be a private company? EV users frequently complain about billing and charging admin.
Yeah, so we have got private billing, absolutely. But however, the tariffs are going to be monitored by the city council. So the tariffs on the public charges will be in line with market tariff rates, rather than a charge point operator just deciding they want to increase the tariff. So what the city council has done is that initial 2 years they have got a fixed tariff, quite low, even with the market rate. But after 2 years, they will be able to increase that to what the market rate is. So they will have to demonstrate to the city council before increasing, and they will have to let the users know in advance that that is what they will be doing before it gets increased.
Thank you. Any more questions before we move on to the next presentation? One general question. Why are the tariffs for on-street charges so much higher than domestic rates?
Because there is a lot of back office requirement involved. The app, the upkeep, there's maintenance elements involved, whereas with the home, it is the electricity cost that you are providing. So by the time I think the operators pay their dues, I don't think that there's huge. I mean, I think people are making a mistake of looking at the tariff rate. It is decidedly cheaper than petrol and diesel. I've done 300 miles on £7, which is unheard of on a petrol or a diesel side of it, on public charging, by the way. But I think it is the CapEx side of it. It is the back office requirements. It is the standing charges. And once you take all of that out, because with the standing charges, it tends to be something like 15-16p anyway, per kilowatt hour. And then you need to include the other maintenance for each charger.
Okay, people are putting in the reasons why as well. VAT being one of them as well. The VAT's different at home to it is.
No. Just a minute. I just want to address Craig. It is not 33p kilowatt hour on charge E. It's 16.2 pence a kilowatt hour on charges.
Okay. There is a question about the charges at the War Memorial Park, that they've been replaced with new models at a higher cost, and the usage dropped off considerably from what Simon could see. I don't know if you're aware of that, Shamla.
What I'm aware of with War Memorial Park, I think we have 5 chargers in the city that were part of the 2012 Olympics, and the contract model for that is completely different, how that was set up at the time. So the way they are operated is totally different to all the other charges that are currently in operation. I'm afraid I don't have anything else to say about War Memorial or even the Little Park Street chargers. And there is one charger on Croft Road, which are part of that, the older contract.
Okay, fine. Is that everything then? We're ready to move on. Shamla, are you got anything else to add?
Nope, not from my side, unless there are any questions for me.
No, nothing from David or Amy.
No, nothing from me.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right then. Well, thank you for all the questions in the chat. I mean, it's time we moved on now. I mean, there's been a lot around the charging aspect, and maybe that's something that Shamla can take offline. If I send you the details of the attendees, if you want to take the conversation further on offline.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm quite happy to speak to Craig offline, and just explain.
Okay, fine. Right, so a bit now about why we think it's important for businesses to go green. So the Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Programme. So this is a ARDF funded programme for SMEs in Coventry and Warwickshire, and it's being delivered by Coventry City Council, Coventry University and Coventry University Enterprises. It's been running, the current phase 2 of our programme has been running since the beginning of 2019. And we're helping businesses to become more energy and resource efficient and make the most of low carbon opportunities. So to qualify and be eligible for this funded programme, you have to be an SME in Coventry and Warwickshire. Being an SME means you employ fewer than 250 employees. You have an annual turnover not exceeding 50 million euros. And one of the other criteria is that your operations are 50% of sales is through business to business. So we're unable to help 100% consumer market. So what do we provide? We provide grants, capital grants to improve energy and resource efficiency to businesses to look at how they can reduce energy and other environmental issues within their business operations. So the grants start from as little as £1,000 and go up to 50k. We provide 40%. The business matches that with a 60% investment. One of the other outputs is the business, when it takes offer of these grants, it's got to be showing that it's saving at least 1 tonne of CO2 emissions per every £1,000 of grant that is awarded to them. Because one of the outputs, of course, is to reduce emissions within the city and the surrounding regions. And just to put that into context, the average car emits about this many 5 tonnes of carbon dioxide every year. So you know, that's to put in, you know, your average car journey a year. The measures that can be supported, so measures that saving carbon, measures that we're helping businesses with are LED lighting, new insulation measures to stop heat disappearing from the building, energy efficient equipment if it's a heavy manufacturing intensive industry, power factor correction. Obviously, we provide grants for renewable technologies, especially solar PV, better ventilation, refrigeration. We look at the businesses' recycling and waste methods, and we can provide funding as well for big balers and crushers if there's a lot of waste being produced that can be recycled. We go into the business and we'll go in and do an energy audit. So that's a free energy audit for the business. So as the government's now forcing large businesses to make climate related disclosures, currently SMEs don't have to, but if you operate within respective value chains of larger organisations, then it could have implications for winning new work. So just to put that into context, SMEs make up 51% of the UK economy, and they're generating currently 65% of the UK emissions. So it will come when they will have to disclose their emissions. Therefore, by getting a free energy audit through our programme and learning about top tips on how you can make the journey for going green, it will put you ahead of the game. And there's a link there on how an energy audit could work for your business. We provide these free energy audits at your business, or we can do it remotely. So during the pandemic, we've been doing all of the energy audits remotely, but we can come in and do face-to-face. It is your preference. The audit will look at the fabric of the building, energy bills, heating, lighting, what equipment you've got, whether that needs upgrading, your operational processes, and it will also look at water and waste bills and the behavioural aspects of your staff as well, because sometimes just changing staff behaviour can have a big impact. From the energy audit, we'll put a business case together based on our findings, and we'll work out the payback periods in investing in green measures. So what will the payback periods of, say, investing in solar PV mean for your business? And we'll provide a full energy resource efficiency report for you. Just some of our highlights during phase 2 of our programme in helping businesses reduce their energy and other resource efficiencies. We've so far assisted 112 businesses during the current phase 2 of the programme, and this is saving 1,200 tonnes of CO2 emissions per year. We've allocated 1.39 million in grant funding to support these businesses to date. Through businesses getting grants, it means they can create more jobs for our local economy, which is another good criteria through our programme. And something else that's growing is our green business network. So the more and more we're going out to businesses, they're hearing about our programme, and the success of that has been now that we've got over 1,400 organisations who have joined the network. Just a bit on the Green Business Network. It is free. You don't have to be an SME to be part of the network. So it's opened up to all organisations, and not just businesses either. Community organisations, schools, colleges, universities, government agencies, social enterprises, everybody's welcome. And being part of the network enables you to attend events like this, webinars, free workshops. You get a monthly newsletter which updates you on what we're doing. So you'll see the case studies of businesses that we've gone out to help and what that means in terms of their lower energy bills. We'll let you know about any new legislation. We'll also let you know of other grant funding programmes that are out there, whether they're out there nationally or locally as well, through other grants that the council's doing. We'll signpost you to those through our business support, investment, innovation and skills for growth grants as well, which are all run by us at the council. You'll also get expert advice from our sustainability consultants. That's free, being part of the network. And as I said earlier, it's going to enhance your green credentials to secure new business. A lot of larger businesses now are putting on their tender documents, what's your sustainability policies. So being part of the network will help in those tender bids. And we also have our Green Business Directory. So if you're a supplier of green technologies or innovations, you're very welcome to join that Green Business Directory. And when we go out to businesses, we'll signpost people to get quotes from any suppliers that are on that directory if they're not sure where to go to. Just a bit on Coventry University and how we work with them as being one of our delivery partners. So they, like us, provide revenue grants up to 10,000k. It's a 40% intervention rate again, and they support the development of low carbon products and services. They're looking at the sectors they're supporting as, for example, low carbon transport, low carbon heat and electricity, waste processing and recycling, energy efficient and sustainable products, buildings and materials. And examples of some revenue grants they've given out for services and consultancy. They've third-party costs for a construction company to design net zero emission buildings. They provided a grant for that. And they've also provided a grant for prototype design and manufacture for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So they'll do the IP protection, licensing, and also the prototype design and manufacture as well as the product testing aspect of it. They also provide capital grants of up to 20k with a 40% intervention rate again. And some of the examples of capital grants they've supported have been around equipment. So equipment to manufacture new low carbon products. They've provided a grant for robotic and CNC equipment to manufacture components for electric vehicles and wind turbines. So there's some of the examples of where the grants have gone there for business help. They also, like us, provide free expert one-to-one advice, and they run workshops as well on a range of sustainable building techniques and technologies around passive house design, building information modelling, and how to make better use of space within buildings, so space efficiency, as well as just some of the examples of the workshops they provide for SMEs. Another service within the council is our business sustain team, and that's a team of sustainability consultants who are providing national businesses, so not just Coventry and Warwickshire, and all businesses of all sizes, so not just SMEs, with environmental management assistance. So they provide bespoke registers of environmental and also health and safety legislation, informing clients of the laws that need to be complied with. They conduct confidential site-specific environmental legislation audits, and also provide bespoke environmental consultancy to support clients with their environmental management systems to maintain ISO 14001 requirements. And the contact details are there if you want to find out more. Just something on what the climate change and sustainability team within the council are looking at in 2021. So we're obviously looking at this net zero journey, and we're developing partnerships with lots of local companies in delivering a major step change in energy infrastructure for the city, so how to decarbonise and get there. We're in the process at the moment of setting up an independent sustainable development commission, and that will be addressing the major challenges of climate change and the loss of biodiversity, and we'll be working with lots of key local stakeholders who will be part of this commission and driving this message forward. We're of course increasing our online offer, the Green Talk live webinars, of which this is today. We're continuing with these, and there's a busy programme planned for the next 6 months. Our business sustain team are migrating 170 of their current environmental and health and safety registers to the online portal that they've developed, and this is going to be launched next month, and new clients will be able to join that as well, so do keep your eyes posted on that one. We're decarbonising energy through our regional energy system operator. So we were recently one of 10 cities to be awarded funding for local smart energy projects. And this project, working with partners of WMCA, the University of Warwick, are designing a regional energy system operator, which will help the city to decarbonise and keep costs down. The design project has the potential to attract further investment into the city and reduce the need for expensive infrastructure upgrades. So we're working with lots of stakeholders around this, and this is going to be launched, the final design, I think, in November of this year. We've also subscribed to Climate View software, which is a program which is being developed by a company in Sweden. So we're working with lots of other UK cities and councils, as well as international European cities as well, to help us plan, understand and visualise the shifts necessary to address the urgent climate crisis. We're also looking at new opportunities, new funding streams, so we continue to bid for funding to support the sustainability agenda, because we're aware that the ERDF funded money won't be around forever, so we've got to look at new opportunities as well. And obviously a big part of the work this year is our climate change strategy, so we're developing a new one, and we'll be engaging with key stakeholders, communities, businesses, public sector organisations around this, and the strategy will be at the forefront of low carbon innovation to benefit the local economy. And finally, so when we entered a COVID world, well, more than a year ago now, we didn't know what to expect really. So the remote world of working has enabled us to look at good changes and opportunities we can make to affect change in a post-COVID world. We're now quite excited about the prospect of coming out of COVID and doing more face-to-face networking. Obviously, the Transport Innovation Showcase is an example of that. Our City of Culture was launched this weekend. But more than ever, I think it's made us aware of the impacts upon the environment and sustainability. We've seen some successes with new ways of working and developing partnerships to enable us to make those changes around digital transformation to manage air quality. And with more people appreciating nature and green spaces, I think, during the pandemic, it's given us a real opportunity to promote active travel and how we use public transport in a post-COVID world. And colleagues today have shared some of those initiatives and projects with you. We now have the opportunity to change the way people use the city in the future. So it's a place for people and not just cars. And we're looking at creating green spaces in the city so people want to live and socialise there. And we'll also be pushing for funding for addressing fuel and food poverty and making homes more energy efficient. We're also educating people about food growing through our food networks that we're developing and growing both local and organic. And we're also engaging with our communities to affect this change. So I hope you can see all the positive things we're trying to do through not just the Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Programme, but also for all our other initiatives within the council. There's some contact details there. If you want to join the network, if you're not part of it already, if you want to find more about the Green Business Programme and the funding opportunities, and also the funding opportunities throughout the council. And if you want to get in touch with my colleagues on the transport team as well, and please do follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, because we're always posting daily there on what's happening within the council, so that will keep you abreast of all the top news as well. So thank you.